taking advantage of what is essentially quite a naive worldview.
Cinderella is true, Barbie is true, you know, so-and-so is your best friend, that kind of stuff. So it's just, it shouldn't be allowed really, it's just not right, you know, their brains are too susceptible, they still believe in Father Christmas and stuff, it's not, they're too impressionable, I think.
With the children's toy market growing and growing, and devices for TV consumption expanding, children are exposed to so much more commercialism. According to the University of Michigan, on average, children aged 2 to 5 spend 32 hours a week in front of a TV, and kids aged 6 to 11 spend about 28 hours a week in front of a TV. That is a lot of time that children will be exposed to advertisements. This project seeks to explore the morality behind what seems like exploiting and manipulating a child for the sale of a product. And also if the ASA are fulfilling the role that they're meant to be, because I'm confused and I feel something isn't quite right. I'm looking at the concept of 360-degree immersive marketing in relation to advertising to children. First though, I feel it would be important to define this term. In short, it is advertising something to someone through something or somebody else. An example of this could be Frozen. Disney created the songs and the merchandise before the film was even created. Then when the film was brought out, the merchandise worked in relation to the film to both market each other. When looking at 360-degree marketing more closely, I've actually come to realise that marketing companies do use this technique in children's advertising. In adverts marketing a product for a child, the primary audience for the advertisement will be a child, but we all know that the child isn't going to be the one buying the product, it would be the parent. Then the product will need to reach the buyer. In most cases, this is the parent. For this to happen, the child will have to watch the advertisement and then go and tell their parent about it, and therefore 360-degree immersive marketing has happened. I have been looking in relation to this project at the ASA, the Advertising Standards Authority. They state that they have the children at the heart of their work. Their job is to monitor all of the content that goes into the advertisements. My job is not to question the content in the advertisements. I'm actually wanting to question the ethics behind using a child to market something for the benefit of a sale. I have carefully selected interviewees with knowledge in this area. Firstly, Eleanor Brooke, a mother of 3 who is frequently faced with having to say no to the demands for products created by advertisements. Secondly, Helen Crothers, a child psychotherapist who will give an insight into the way children view the advertisements they see. Thirdly, Jane Cronin, a content manager for a marketing company who has experience with creating and managing marketing campaigns that use 360-degree immersive marketing as a technique. I have used the UK version of the Kiddie Zoom smartwatch TV advertisement as a case study and classic example to show interviewees how 360-degree marketing can work.
What we're doing? Kiddie Zooming! Kiddie Zooming!
This seems like a very clear example of marketing a product to children that costs money and will have to be bought by parents. Using this as an example, I asked my experts to comment directly on what they thought a child's response may be.
I think they would love it. I think it looks fun, it looks like you're bound to have a better time when you're doing it, and you do it with your friends, and it just makes it look like the most amazing thing ever.
I think it would probably appeal to my youngest child. I think it's probably targeted at her age range. I thought the style of the advert would probably appeal to her as well, to be honest. It's quite kind of bright and kind of, you know, sort of aimed at that age range, quite loud.
Yeah, I think they'd be really strongly nagging their parents for it. I think it would be really exciting. It's exactly at the right age. Like something like that watch is that magical thinking age of kind of, if I believe it, it's true. So that they won't have that kind of slightly as if quality.
I then explained to my interviewees that my considered definition of 360-degree immersive marketing was marketing something to a parent through a child. I can see why marketers use 360-degree marketing, and I can see that it's successful in its techniques. However, let's return to the question of ethics. Is it morally okay to be using a child in this way?
I think it's insidious. I think it's probably inevitable. I think if you look at consumerism and marketing, of course they're going to. I think it's another pressure for a parent to deal with. And I think a lot of the time you might be talking to kids about why that might not be quite as exciting as it looked, or do you remember when we bought that one and it wasn't quite so. I think it certainly means you need to teach your kids about advertising. So I don't like it, but I'm not sure it's going to go away.
It does feel a bit manipulative, and some of the specific adverts are more manipulative than others, which gets on my wick, but I feel completely able to resist the pressure to buy, so it doesn't bother me in a massive way. And I think unless we could basically deconsumerise our society, I don't know if there'd be a way to avoid it in some form. So the fact it's overt doesn't bother me particularly, because in some ways it's easier to deal with, because stuff that was more goes under the radar is possibly harder as a parent to manage, I think.
I mean, especially in the UK, where the advertising standards guidelines actually explicitly forbid using what's called pester power to try and get children to nag their parents to get something. I think if you've got a marketing campaign where you're aiming at children and possibly also parents, for me the key would not be to provide adverts that would maybe try and encourage the children to nag their parents. Probably for a couple of reasons. The first being, the ultimate decision maker is going to be the parent.
If I take you, will you two shut up and quit bugging me?
Yeah, of course. Well, will you take the mouse splash more?
Yes!
Thanks, Dad.
In the long term, if your advertising is actually doing things that are going to annoy the parent, they're going to have quite a poor impression of your brand. That's probably actually going to make them less likely to want to buy that for their children. You're probably going to find yourself being discussed on forums like Mumsnet in quite a derogatory way, and that is really going to be poor brand awareness for you. But secondly, actually looking at the child, is that even providing a good experience to the child? If I was creating a marketing campaign where I knew I was targeting under 16s, I wouldn't want it to have that sort of negative connotation of, oh, we're going to be bugging their parents, we're going to be annoying them. I think instead what I'd want to be doing is looking to provide a really good experience for them, whether that's in perhaps a fun or interesting TV ad, perhaps a fun community for them online, perhaps tips for how they could use like the toy or the product to play with their friends or learn new things. I think that would be much more effective.
I would now like to find out if 360-degree immersive marketing is something consciously used by marketers when creating an advertisement for children.
I do think that though if you're creating a digital or traditional advertising campaign aimed at children and parents, they would definitely want to make sure that in the adverts and the content or anything that's directed to the children, that you're showing them why it's going to be fun. For example, in the video you showed me, that it's sort of allowing them to like capture fun moments with their friends and sort of have quite an easy and accessible thing to play with. And I think that's perhaps quite a reasonable example of how like the benefits of the product being displayed to children in a way that probably think, oh, that might be something really fun, I might ask my parents for that for my birthday, rather than an advert that perhaps explicitly had a message, being like, oh, don't let your parents rest until you've got this, which would clearly be quite unethical and obviously in contravention to the guidelines.
Now I am stuck. Just because an advertisement is not explicitly telling a child to ask the parents or pester their parents for a product, does that make it okay that 360-degree immersive marketing is still happening? I'm not sure whether it could be construed that marketing companies are exploiting a child.
Yeah, I think it could be. I think just excluding a very specific part of it, which is not explicitly saying pester your parents, but actually it is designed to make them pester their parents. But as is so many things, so I think, I think it's really arbitrary just saying that they're not allowed to include certain phrases. I think that's a little bit patronising in a way to both kids and parents who know perfectly well that actually that's what it's designed for and that's what it does.
I think that very much depends, again, in the way that it's done and the way in which the advertisers are abiding, perhaps not just by the exact letter of the law, but also the spirit of it, and whether they're taking into account sort of concerns that parents might be expressing.
I think they are exploiting children, absolutely. I think it's hard enough for us adults when something says, oh, this is going to make you slim or this is going to make you rich, to actually slow down and think, is it going to make me slim? And even if it does, will I be as happy as the person in that advert? But for kids, it's just this very direct line of kind of, this looks fun, this feels good, it's brightly coloured, you want it.
So then, my final query would have to be whether advertising to children should stop altogether.
I think the kind of society we live in is the root cause of advertising and kind of the root cause of kind of consumer drive in children. So though it would be nice and easier as a parent to have less advertising, I think there's a bigger issue that would need to be tackled if that was going to be successful in reducing children's kind of consumerist urges, which I think are caused just as much by what other people have and by a kind of general awareness in the world that just seeing things in shops, I think, can be as much of a driver, and seeing their friends get things as specific advertising can be. So I think it's a bigger issue, but yeah, I think as a parent it'd be helpful if there's less advertising, because there's loads of it.
In my ideal world, I don't think there'd be any advertising for kids. I think grown-ups could make decisions about, occasionally find something new that you weren't aware of that might be, you know, the best Christmas present they've ever had, but an awful lot of the time it feels like just something else to argue with them about or put them off.
From my personal opinion and unpacking the findings in this project, I feel very dissatisfied with what I have found out about 360-degree immersive marketing to children. I feel, even though I have found out that marketers are not explicitly allowed to tell children to pester their parents, I do feel disappointed that they know the techniques and images that they use will entice a child to ask the parents for the product. Thus, 360-degree marketing is happening, and the findings from my expert interviewees seem to indicate that 360-degree immersive marketing is exploiting children. Comments from my interviewees accuse this process of being manipulative, insidious, but yet inevitable. I feel if people are not happy with this underhand process, then why should it be inevitable? My answer to this would have to be that the Advertising Standards Authority are not doing their job properly. Because if they were enforcing the disallowing of pester power, then this type of 360-degree immersive marketing could not work. But as it stands, according to research from this project, it does. Now, let's make 360-degree immersive marketing happen. Please tell all your friends about my video.